This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at the Pacific Resident Theater for Safe at Home, an evening with Orson Bean. Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. I'm here with...
And I'm Orson Bean, and here we are, backstage in the theater. Actors should not be treated kindly, and they are not in theaters. I worked in a lot of Broadway theaters for 20 years, and the dressing rooms are holes in the wall, and I think that's good.
I just saw your performance there. I thought it was fantastic.
Bless your heart. Thank you so much. Yeah, we decided to reopen the show after 6 weeks running it last year, and so we've had great good fortune. The audiences are coming and they're loving it.
Why did you decide to the content here? I mean, the content wasn't about your fame. It wasn't about meeting this fantastic movie star. Aren't you impressed with that? It was actually about your personal life. Why did you decide to do that?
Because I think that what I hope to impart is gratitude. I just feel lucky when I wake up every morning. I just feel like I'm the luckiest son of on God's green earth, and I think that feeling put upon makes you feel bad and makes everyone around you feel bad. Everybody has had rough stuff in their life, and if you're feeling full of self-pity, no one wants to be around you, and you can't fake it. But I'm genuinely grateful every time I wake up. I'm 87 years old. I mean, I should be either dead or sitting in a rocking chair whittling, gassing with other old geezers. Instead of here I am getting up every night on the stage and talking for 90 minutes.
So basically, this was actually a story about your childhood. It had a lot of drama behind it. You know, your personal baggage. A lot of people would actually try to forget their baggage, either that or try to, deny it, or just come up with some optimistic thing about, oh, it made me the man I am now. It made me strong. I mean, how do you deal with it?
Well, I am the former king of self-improvement. I had 10 years on the couch with a traditional therapist. Then I did Reichian therapy. Reich was one of Freud's lieutenants who believed in something called orgone energy. Orgone energy is inside us, and if it builds up, it provides the fuel on which neurosis feeds. And the way to get rid of the excess orgone energy is to have a good orgasm with someone you love. So I did that for 2 years. I did Est, Werner Erhardt's Est. I did rebirthing. I walked on fire, which I talk about in the show. I finally decided I'm okay the way I am and I don't need any more therapy.
Okay, well, again, I really enjoyed it because, again, it was very comical. It was actually very dramatic. It was shocking at some points in time when you talked about your childhood also.
Well, it's meant to be shocking. It's meant to be dramatic. And I every time I make the people cry, I tell them a joke and make them laugh. Because I think, the African Americans have great humor because they've had hard times. The Jews have great humor because they've been persecuted for centuries. And you have to choose between crying or laughing. And the Jews and the blacks are two groups that have chosen to laugh a lot. And individuals, most comics I know, are basically not very happy people, and they choose to laugh, and that's how they deal with it.
Okay, well, one thing about my show is a lot of people who listen to my show are community theater actors. A lot of them are students. Is there any kind of advice you can give with your tremendous background, your history, your success? Is there? Could you give them some kind of advice to help them along with their career?
When a young person comes to me and says, "What should I do? I want to be an actor," I say, act. Act whatever you can. Act in a church basement. Act for nothing. If you got nobody else, get a friend and do a scene together. Consider an audition a chance to act for 3 minutes. You're going to be rejected, so what? Just look at it as a chance to act. So audition for the part of the barmaid. I broke into the business working in summer stock in the days when a group of young people would be at a summer theater all summer. They would be rehearsing next week's show during the day. They would be putting the show on at night. Then they would go have a beer. They would be building the set. And the juvenile lead had talcum powder behind his ears from when he played the Colonel last week. They had a place to be bad because you got to be bad. So in those days in summer stock, you could be bad, and it was fun, and nobody cared. And then the more you're bad, the better you get, and then you're pretty good. It's hard today to find any place to be bad. You can't be bad on TV. You can't be bad on Broadway. That's why I hope 99-seat theater lasts, despite the efforts of Actors Equity to close it down, because not all the performances in 99-seat theater are good, but they're interesting. It's interesting to watch someone trying and not doing very well.
Yeah. Usually in my interviews, I also ask actors, how do you get in the business, basically. That your whole show was about that. So could you give me a really quick synopsis of, why did you get in the business?
I got in the business because I was the class clown. I got up on the chair when the teacher was out of the room and tried to make people laugh. I wanted to make people love me. I didn't think they loved me at home. I wanted them to love me in the classroom. And I became class clown, and then I became a magician. I learned to do my tricks, and then what magicians called the patter became dominant, and I dropped the tricks and just started writing my own material. And so actors have to wait for someone to cast them in a show. I was a comic. I could work the Moose Club or the Veterans of Foreign Wars Hall or the Elks Hall or some dinky little club, and then when I got a part in a play, I could do that. And when I was on Broadway for 20 years, I got on my bicycle after the curtain came down at 11 p.m. and I rode through the theater traffic on my bike and went to a club called the Blue Angel on the east side of Manhattan and went on at 11:30. So I could work both ends. I wrote my own play, in effect, with my comedy material.
Yeah. Interesting. Your life was actually the entire topic of this. I'm not sure if it was whether you had a very colorful life, you had a very fulfilling life, or was it just your talent, your artistic talent, that you actually verbalized, you communicated the pain and the tragedy so well that it's actually turning out to be a very good play? Because again, it is critically acclaimed.
Well, yes, it became critically acclaimed. For a long time, it was just word of mouth. By a long time, I'm talking about 6 weeks. I just threw this thing together not long ago, and I put it on for some friends in a backyard, and they said, I like it. The friend said, and then I put it on for a group of old people who study theater at 11 in the morning here in the theater here, just free to see what they thought. And this wonderful director, Cienfuegos, came in and saw it, and he's the best director I've ever worked with. He directed the best Henry V in one of our theaters here in Venice. It's the best Shakespeare I've ever seen. His Henry V was superb in a little theater. I went home and I have Kenneth Branagh's Henry V on DVD, and I have the great Laurence Olivier's Henry V. They're both entirely different. Olivier made his Henry V when London was being bombed by the Nazis, and the government said, we want you to make a patriotic movie that will inspire patriotism, and his Henry V inspires patriotism. Branagh's is anti-war, and the same material could be used to say, oh, war is awful, who would ever want to go to war? Well, the Henry V in this little theater in Venice was better than either of those movies, and they're as good a Henry V as you could ask for.
Yeah. As for your life, I know, we've read bios of other actors. Their lives have ended pretty badly, rather tragically. Your life, it seems to have an optimistic ending to it. What are your comments on that?
Well, because I decided the earliest memory I can remember having as a young boy is I will be happy. I will be happy someday. I came out of a miserable childhood, and I tried a lot of things to be happy. I tried sex and drugs and fame and all kinds of stuff, and they all worked for a while. And then when they stopped, I just kept trying, and then I became a believer in God. I'm not a big believer in religion. As I say in the show, to me, religion is like the bottled water industry. God and water are free. What we pay for is the packaging. But I love God, and I love Jesus, and I get down on my knees all the time and say, thank you. And I'm not a goody-goody. I think that Jesus hung out with hookers and tax collectors and the bottom of the barrel riffraff, and he heard a lot of dirty language in Aramaic. So I'm not a goody-goody Christian who says, oh, gosh almighty, people are turned off by that. I love Jesus, and I also love a good dirty joke.
You remind me a lot of Bing Crosby because he was a very religious man.
Who?
Bing Crosby.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
He was a very religious man throughout his life, and he had, I guess he had a very happy life. Had a very good family too.
Well, I don't know much about Bing's private life. I got to love Bob Hope, and every night in the warm-up music before my show starts, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope sing "The Road to Morocco," which has one of the great lyrics ever penned. We're like Webster's dictionary, we're Morocco bound. I got to know Bob Hope kind of well over the years. I never met Bing Crosby. I made a movie with his wife, Anatomy of a Murder, first picture I ever made, and she was in it, Catherine Grant, and she told me a little bit about Bing, but I never met him. But Bob Hope I love. The last time I saw him, he was 89 years old. We were sitting in a couple of chairs over at NBC Burbank, and a hot babe walked by, and 89-year-old Bob Hope watched her go by and turned to me and said, "Oh, I'd like a piece of that."
This is just a pleasure talking to you. I just love this. Well, first of all, I loved your theater piece because it was just basically you talking about it, but it was so mesmerizing. I really wish a lot of my viewers would come by. Well, thank you once again for being on the show.
Bless your heart. It's a joy talking to you. I really enjoyed it more than you did. Bye.
Bye. Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Allie Bean. Most importantly tonight, because you saw An Evening with Orson Bean, I'm Orson Bean's wife, but I've been an actor since I was 5 years old. I'm currently on a soap opera called The Bold and the Beautiful, but I'm probably best known for being on The Wonder Years for 7 years, playing Norma Arnold, the mom. And we do theater together, my husband and I. We love to do that, and we did Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman together. I played his intended on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman too.
So, in the theater piece, it sounds like you are having a very wonderful marriage together.
We are really, really blessed with having a wonderful marriage. And I'm so happy that I waited 40 years because I would have made some really bad choices before I met my husband. And we're extremely fortunate. We have a wonderful family around us, and I'm married to a incredibly smart human being who keeps my mind active.
And handsome.
And handsome. And I adore him.
That's actually very shocking for me that you wait for 40 years before you marry. Because by the time you're married, a lot of your friends probably have been married 3 times already.
Well, actually, because I grew up in the 60s, a lot of my friends weren't married. I was sort of like I'm a Roe v. Wade baby. I graduated in 1973, right when that law passed. And it was sort of a new, almost like a revolutionary thing that women actually weren't getting married. And so my 3 best friends were not married at the age of 40 either. I know it's odd. I had a full life, but the people that I'd met before my husband would not have been good choices, any of them.
So what do you think the theater piece that was done today about your husband's life? Do you think he should have added more of, say, his fame, because it would attract more people, it would be more of a crowd gatherer? Or do you like this? No,
I'm so glad that it's exactly the way it is, because so many people have talked to me afterwards and they're so touched by it. And he has enough about show business and enough jokes, because everybody laughs, but it's also, you go away thinking about something more. And that's not that common to have really poignant theater where people think about it after, and maybe might do something different with their life.
I was very, very mesmerized by when he talked about his childhood, because a lot of people aren't that vulnerable. They really don't expose themselves.
I know. He really, really has been vulnerable with this. It's been quite a year working on it, because it's brought up a lot of things in his life, and I'm happy I could be there for him, because it's tough to be that naked on stage and bring up things that were really sorrowful. So I'm very proud of him.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being on the show. It was a fantastic, seriously, this was a really good show. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. I'm very proud of him. Nice to meet you.
All right. Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Guillermo Cienfuegos. I direct plays here at Pacific Resident Theater, and right now the latest show I directed is Safe at Home, An Evening with Orson Bean.
I actually love this. I really loved it.
I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, we're really proud of it. he's a really special person, and he tells a story that I think impacts people of all ages, and it's really a pleasure to watch people enjoy it.
Interesting. What does the director do when it's like a one-man piece? Because I know what directors do when they're like, the casting calls and they're like, and the blocking and all that.
Well, even though it's just a one person on the stage and there's not characters and interacting with each other, it's still a play, and there's a very specific story being told. And in this play, there is the character of Orson Bean, and essentially the story is a man who never had a home. And he spends his entire life looking for this home, and at the end of the day, he finds it, and he's grateful. And so the idea was I helped shape the script so that we're always following that story, and we're sort of, guiding his performance. I mean, he's an absolute master who's been doing this since the 40s. There's not like his performance needs, direction, but in terms of directing the story, it's really just like directing any other kind of play, just remembering what story you're trying to tell.
Yeah, well, again, I love this story. So if my viewers decide to come here, what do they should expect?
I think they should expect, besides a lot of laughs and besides some magic tricks and songs, you're going to be hearing a story about a man who's grateful, and he's earned the right to be grateful. Like I said, the story is a guy who never had a home. He spends his whole life searching for one, and then he finds it, and he's grateful, and he wants to share that with us. He wants us to see that this is the way you should live a life, is with a position of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. There you go.
Okay, well, once again, I love the show. Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you much for having me.
Safe at Home, An Evening with Orson Bean, will be playing at the Pacific Resident Theater from January 22nd to March 11th. For more information, go to www.pacificresidenttheater.com.